Right. For the English debate, we have a team from East Midlands and South Yorkshire, better known as MC, and Northwest, better known as NW. Okay, so the next guy, I would like to invite our honored speakers to come to the front and to take their Okay, and the motion which will be debated today is this House believes that Occidental refugee policies are better than their Oriental counterparts. So as before, you can vote whether you agree with the motion or disagree with the motion. Okay. Okay, just double checking. Right. So for this debate, Northwest will be the government, and they are represented by Muhammad Mikail Shamsul Baha, Shakira Shaman, and Amir Hassan. Whereas MC, who will be the opposition, are represented by Noor Shafiran Amalika, Anna Haiti, and Alka Hamid. Okay. Because we've been through the rules very briefly, I'll go through this section very quickly just so that everyone's up to scratch on it. I've told you the motion, I've told you the names of the speakers. The rules are as follows. Each speaker will be given 6 minutes to deliver their speech. During the first minute, they will be allowed to speak uninterrupted, but after that, they will be allowed to answer any POIs. And they can have POIs between the second minute until the 5th minute. So during the last minute, there shall be no POIs. All right? And if you go over the time limit, we will stop you after 30 seconds. And of course, we will take away some marks from it. Okay? We will be marking you based on your language, style, strategy, and the points that you put forward. All right, so with that, I'll be the Speaker of the House, and inshallah, Aisha Abdul Hamid will be the timekeeper. So let's get this underway with the Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, my esteemed opposition, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. Good morning to all of you, or what's left of the morning. I stand before you here today as the Prime Minister to put forward this motion that this House believes that Occidental refugee policies are better than their Oriental counterparts. In this modern era, the paradigm of globalization and its emphasis on free movement of people has dramatically changed how refugee issues are discussed. The notion that each individual has fundamental rights has even further changed the expectations of how refugees are treated. With that context in mind, we believe that Occidental policies are better at fulfilling the human needs of refugees in a holistic and sustainable manner. So before we get into the discussion, I'll to clear up some definitions surrounding this. First of all, we would like to define the word Oriental as being of, from, or characteristic of Asia, continent of Asia. Occidental, on the other hand, is relating to the countries of the West. As the West itself is an ambiguous term, we have put in a geographical constraint to the countries of North America and Europe. A refugee, according to the UN Charter of Human Rights, is a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disaster. And we will define policy as a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by an organization or an individual. So policies are actual plans of action by the state directly relating to refugees. And the policies that we are discussing will be contemporary and not historical. So we will not be debating on refugee policies of times long past. Thank you. So the burden of proof that we would like to impose on our opponents would be to convince us that the Oriental refugee policies cannot surpass their Occidental counterparts in both long-term and short-term benefits to both refugees and the host countries. And I would like to put forward my first point that the Occidental refugee policies are well coordinated. For your information, all of the Western countries in Europe and North America are signatories to the 1951 Geneva Convention determining the status of refugees. So as a result, they have a comparatively well-coordinated approach at dealing with refugees, in contrast to the Oriental countries, which have considerable variation according to local customs and cultures. I would argue that the basic needs of refugees are better met by the approach of the 1951 Geneva Convention, including the right to shelter. By and large, refugees in Occidental nations are not concentrated in camps. They are given the right to housing, the right to reasonable integration within the community. Now, the opposition might bring up the example of Camp Calais, France. However, sorry, yes, go on.
Could you explain about the concentration camps in Greece or France?
Yes, I was just about to get on to that. So, as I was about to say, the camps in Greece and France are not made up of refugees. So there's a distinction to be made between refugees and asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are people who are attempting to become refugees. That means their refugee status is either pending or has been rejected, and they are there illegally. Those who have been accepted are given housing and a reasonable living. And with the time remaining, I would like to also give the example of Canada, which helps refugees meet their other basic need, which is food, water, and security. Canada supports private individuals and non-governmental organizations and links them with refugees. So the policy of Occidental countries not only directly gives government help to refugees, but also supports charity bodies, charitable individuals, and gives this medium for the civil society to engage with refugees. So to conclude, I would say that the Occidental policies towards refugees are more reasonable, more basic human, which include the right to food, water. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to invite the first speaker of the opposition to give opening remarks.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning everyone. Clearly states that this has been that Occidental refugee policies are better than the Oriental part. From the opposition, 100% oppose the motion. We from the opposition hold a very simple stance. We believe that Occidental countries first and foremost, it is decided to reject the government. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, we think that Occidental countries should not pertain to the Western country. We define Occidental country means pertaining to or relating to Western or Western culture. The definition given by the government, New Zealand, the big crisis that we think that the government can feel the when you are comparing this, but I'm sorry about my shaking hand, but you are comparing two groups of countries, which one is better, you should explain to us what sense are saying that they are better. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we are comparing two countries, which one, the countries are more superior when it comes to ensuring that the refugees' rights are fulfilled according to the 1951 Refugee Convention. So we will use those whenever the government refugees 100
Sorry. So firstly, we did mention about the 1951 convention, so we are in agreement there. It's a common ground. Secondly, we want to limit the scope to Europe and the Americas because that is without question the West, whereas Australia and New Zealand could be considered part of Asia. So I can understand why you want to grab onto those straws, but we should start.
Thank you very much. I understand your point. So this is the Prime Minister themselves see that the Eastern countries have a different cultural kind of ideology and sentiment, or the New Zealand and Australia have that kind of mentality as the Eastern country. You can see that Australia and New Zealand are Asian countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's unfair. So let's proceed to the rebuttal. Ladies and gentlemen, the government also, when my third speaker has tried to was questioning about the Calais camp, about the camp in France, or about the camp in Greece, the Prime Minister said that these people are not refugees, and they say that we are confused with the refugee and asylum seekers. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about refugee policies, we want to make sure that all these, whether refugee or asylum seekers, are protected. Are you saying that asylum seekers in the Calais camp or the Greece or the France should not be protected, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think that is fair. Right, let's proceed to the time by the opposition. So today, we believe that Occidental countries' refugee policies are not necessarily better than the Oriental countries. Number one, because we have proved that there are outstanding contributions by the Oriental countries. Number two, we have proved that there are loopholes in the policies implementation of Occidental countries. That means not all Occidental countries are doing well. Ladies and gentlemen, together we'll analyze how these two countries are playing their role to help the key player in the refugee crisis, the elephant in the room that we are ignoring at the moment. So let's proceed to the first point of the opposition. So we believe that there are proof that Oriental countries are paying outstanding contribution to the refugee crisis. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, is in terms of integration with the society. China, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to Indo-Chinese refugee, ladies and gentlemen, they do not provide refugee camp. Do you know what they did? They actually established long-term resettlement for the Indo-Chinese refugees, ladies and gentlemen. Because we can see that China are not implementing good policies for the refugees, ladies and gentlemen. And this is defeating the Article 34 of the UN Convention, which says that countries should provide the possibility of assimilation and naturalization to refugees. Second point is empowerment. We do not just accept these refugees, but we also empower them. Number one is Indonesia, for example. We accept the Rohingya refugees, and we give them soft skill training, ladies and gentlemen. And this is under MAPIT. And recently, the government announced in February that they will allow Rohingya workers to work. This is such a good improvement as well. And secondly, with regards to education, UNHCR has recently partnered with an NGO in Malaysia to give education to children of Rohingya refugees. So basically, there are 8 education centers at the moment, deciding 4 countries, and we use the textbook in Indonesia. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have much time to say, but from the first given, I think it has shown how the motion today should fall, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe that Occidental countries' refugee policies are not necessarily better than Oriental countries.
Thank you. Right. I would like to invite the second speaker from the government to deliver her points.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon to my fellow teammates, my dearest opponents, my fellow judges, and every member of the parliament. So this House believes that Occidental refugee policies are better than the Oriental counterpart, and we from the government, we believe that these motions should stand simply because the Occidental policies are better at fulfilling the human needs of refugees in a holistic and sustainable manner, benefits the host country and the home country in the long term, ladies and gentlemen. So as the second speaker from the government team, I will rebut, first of all, the first point from the opposition team, and I will also put forth 2 points from the government team under the key points, economy and education. So to rebut the point given by the opposition team, so they say that their stand is because Occidental policies are not necessarily better than the Oriental. So we would like to give them a burden of proof, and please prove to us how your performance can surpass Occidental refugees in the long term to benefit the host country and the home country and the refugees itself in the long run. Because we believe that countries like Canada, United States of America, Germany, these are big powers that have bigger capacity and a bigger power that can provide sustainable needs for these refugees. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on, sorry. And they also say that they provide resettlement in the China. But do you know that they are actually being racist and they are very selective to their own ethnicity? So not all refugees are being given the equal needs, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we believe that the first point given by the opposition team is not valid. I'm sorry. Okay, moving on to the first point of the government team, which falls under the key point education. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to sorry. So, the displacement of such a vast number of people generation means that to continue. We know that in order to rebuild Syria after the conflict, and we need even by what Canada and Germany have provided to the refugees there. And while the physical needs of the refugees is the paramount priority, the academic needs of the Syrian people are not being overlooked in the West, ladies and gentlemen. And it is imperative that higher education be viewed in a strategic context, like what's being implemented in Canada, as a way of recovery for a war-stricken nation. The war will end, ladies and gentlemen, but the young people who would be integral in rebuilding Syria are being left behind. And the Occidental policies, they know this, and they implement policies properly to bring back the youngsters to, be educated, to bring back patriotism and rebuild their country. And higher education, when properly supported in the West, acts as a catalyst, ladies and gentlemen, for the recovery of the war-torn countries. And not only by supplying the skills and knowledge to reconstruct the shattered economic and physical infrastructure, but it is also by supporting the restoration of collapsed governance, ladies and gentlemen, and to enhance political awareness and fostering social cohesion that's done very excellently by the West, ladies and gentlemen. And when basic needs are being met, so we can go up the various level of needs by providing them love and belonging by giving them education. And Germany, for example, provides online courses. The University of York provides £750,000 to help refugees to sponsor academics. And World University Service of Canada partner with universities to give them scholarships and sponsor refugee students and their families. And ladies and gentlemen, this does not only become advantageous to the refugees, it is also advantageous to the whole itself. Because why? Because education improves, giving education to the refugees increases the profile of the universities, to nationalize the campus, and this increases their value in the education. And this mostly and this citizenship causes a language, causes social stability, ladies and gentlemen. And there is no clear textbook as university courses that will benefit long term. Which falls under the key point economy and symbiosis. So we all know that in Germany, for example, even if the retirement age were raised to 70 and the number of women and men in the workforce were equal, the total workforce will also be less. And they are so dependent on them because the Germany population shrinking, the businesses are unable to fill their jobs, and a smaller workforce translates into lesser health insurance system, lesser people to pay taxes for expenses like schools and construction. So allowing, and so the West and also skill training, and it does not only become advantageous to the host, but the refugees can land a job, and it means more than just having a paycheck. Having work means integration, acceptance, recognition, and sentiment. And people in the Jordanian authorities do not let refugees to work, so that is a shame. They could need autonomy, and they need to be allowed to work. And the Gulf Cooperation Council, for example, in the East, they treat refugees as slaves. So we believe, therefore, that this motion should stand simply because it provides a long-term benefit when it comes to giving the refugees and host country and the home country's benefits.
Thank you. I would definitely keep it. I would like to invite the second speaker of the opposition.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Very pleasant to everyone here. Yes. Okay. First and foremost, I'd like to rebut all the false assumptions made by the government side to the opposition side, which is the first one. That China is taking only the Indo-Chinese refugees. Can you please enlighten the whole debate what US has been done to the refugees based on what Trump has recently based on the executive order? Doesn't that discriminate them because it is from 7 Muslim majority countries? And when we talk about employment, you can rant on and we can keep on talking. How the education policies will be like in Germany. But then, at the very first place, as you can see, the refugees, how can they enjoy all the education benefits that holders if they can't enter the country at the very first place? This is why. That's what happened in Gentlemen. Let me tell you what happened in Australia as represent the Occidental countries. The refugees do not have their permission to enter the country by boat, and they are being sent away to the third world countries. So, at the very first place, some of the policies adopted by the Occidental are very tight, and you are not allowing the asylum seekers to even commit and enjoy the benefits as a refugee. I will talk about that. Sorry. Yes, please.
So I see a pattern emerging here that the opposition likes to hold on to loose straws. Australia again and again, when it is to the east of Malaysia, it is not part of the west.
Thank you.
Secondly, US is a very disappointing example that you bring because it is not policy. The executive orders of Trump have been rejected. We are talking about policies. So please do not play on the product. Thank you.
Thank you. First, this is why the opposition leader have stated that we refute the definition given by the Prime Minister because we believe we want to define the Occidental countries. The Western culture also include in the Occidental countries, which is Australia and New Zealand. You can't say no, and we cannot say Australia and New Zealand based on the geographical reason they are in the Oriental country. So, and answering to the POI about the US executive order, when we talk about because US has been pledging has taken lots of refugees since and when Trump's executive order is being applied to the country and to these immigrants who are most of them also asylum seekers who have been staying in the US for such a long time, you are jeopardizing their rights and it affects the refugees who have been staying in the US for such a long time. So I'm going to move on to the opposition case. Our second argument is under the key point disparities in execution by Occidental countries. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what's happening in the EU right now. In the European Union, currently, Greece and Italy is holding the highest number of refugees, up to 300,000, and it is not being shared equally among the EU, among other 26 European Union countries. So this is why the United Nations has made it compulsory for the other EU countries to please take and ease the burden that Greece and Italy is having. However, having said this, some of the new countries denying to abide to the reallocation program set by the UN, such as the United Kingdom, Czech Republic, Romania, and Slovakia. So this is why we believe in the Occidental countries, back to our stand, their policies are not necessarily better than the Oriental counterparts because we see there's a loophole in how they manage their policies to cater about the refugees.
And this is jeopardizing the 1951 Refugee Convention based on the Article 12 as well, where we believe that in the Article 12 it says that any countries in this world where persons are seeking protection at your borders and claim themselves as refugees, you can't say no because it is the human rights. And this is what the European Union countries are doing to the refugees that are from East and Italy. So that is my second point. I'm going to move to the last case from the opposition side, where I see there's no POI from the government side and they agree with me. Our last point is about, I want to talk about, when we discuss refugee policy, it's unfair to not talk about the Middle East countries, because Turkey is the host of the highest number of refugees, which is 2.3 million. And with regards to this move, we'll see how Occidental and Oriental countries are playing their role to help the Middle East countries. I'll take China to represent Oriental counterpart and EU to represent the Occidental. China has pledged to donate 10 years to alleviate the sufferings of refugees in Turkey. However, what EU have done is that, in contrast, EU recently has refused to accept the migration bill as requested by Turkey to help them assisting their refugees. And Turkey now is accepting lesser refugees. And at the end of the day, due to this political dispute between EU countries and also the Turkey, who is paying the price at the end of the day is the refugees and the lives of them. So we would like to re-emphasize that we have answered the burden of proof provided by the government side, and we have also give out a thorough analysis because we are making comparisons where I think there's no comparisons given from the government side. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now call upon the third speaker to rebut the points.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for Mr. Mike. Third Speaker of the government, second Machai. I'm a bit rusty, I'm sorry, so this may not take 6 minutes, and this will take 16 minutes. We'll see how it goes. But basically, I'm here to reaffirm our stand as the government that Occidental refugee policies are much better than Oriental counterparts for 3 reasons. One is that it is a holistic taking care of the refugee as a human being. Secondly, it is beneficial to the host country in the long term. And thirdly, it is beneficial to the home country in the long term, right? And the burden of proof that has been put on the opposition has not been answered. If you see, ladies and gentlemen, it is quite clear, as one of the audience has pointed out, that what they are going for in the opposition is a draw, okay? They are themselves aware, consciously or subconsciously, that Oriental policies when it comes to refugees are not better than the Occidental counterparts, and all they're trying to say is Occidental ones are not better. However, this is totally obviously blatantly not the case, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, a few things have been emphasized again and again by the opposition side. Firstly, the example of Australia, the example of Greece. These are very, very, as I mentioned before, loose straws that desperate people like to pull onto, but they have nothing else to hold on to. Okay, so Australia, once again, as we say, it's not in the West. Greece, as an example, has to be contextualized. Where is Greece and where is China? China is on the other side of the world compared to Syria, whereas Greece is basically right next to it, right? So we have to see, while China has the luxury to give money, Greece actually has to handle the actual people coming into the European Union. And you know, they have shot themselves in the foot there by actually mentioning the European Union. Because the European Union is actually a safeguard that is present in the West that is not present in the East, as a way to say to the countries, hold on to the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. Point.
The thing may be that the Greece is having those problems because they are having countries. Why are they in countries in this case? Why are they not helping this country?
Okay, thank you. Once again, just to cut through the obvious rhetoric of the opposition there, we are not saying the Western countries are heavens, they are not perfect, you know. But what we are saying is that they are much better than anything that East can provide. For the reason that, as mentioned just now, the Barlow hierarchy of needs. Yes, maybe the neighboring countries to these crisis zones can provide food and some extent of security, but not to the extent that the Western countries can. And the Western countries can go up the pyramid. They can provide education, they can provide language courses, they can provide ways in which refugees can actually integrate into society. And that is what we are looking for. We are not trying to make refugees into beggars. We want to make them people that can thrive and go back to their country as better people. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not looking down to the sincerity, I'm sure, of the Turkish or the Jordanians or the Muslim countries in the Arab, in Arabia. But what we are saying is, do they have the capacity? And do they have the policies actually in place? And in this sense, the Western countries undeniably have the capacity. Okay. That's one thing. One thing also to look at is...
Your answer.
Okay, go on.
I accept that you actually told us how the Western countries are bringing all the education policies. But aren't you neglecting the educational system that the Oriental countries has also tried to provide for the refugees? For example, what Malaysia provide for the Myanmar refugee, ladies and gentlemen, because they actually provide the centers where we use Malaysian textbook to teach 4 subjects, and this is aimed at 5 to 16 years old children. This is like a very proper system, not like an informal system by volunteers. Please don't.
It is interesting for you to mention Malaysia and the Rohingyas, because we, I think as Malaysians, should be the ones most aware that we do not address the Rohingya problem as well as we can. Okay, I'm not saying there is not enough goodwill at the grassroots level. We all want to help the Rohingyas, and we do, and that's actually much of the help that goes there. You know, actual people on the ground going there to help the Rohingyas. But today's debate, I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, is whether the refugee policies, and policies are government acts. Okay, so let's make that clear. There is nothing against, like I said, the sincerity of people on the ground. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last minute. So I guess we are going to be 6 minutes then. I think we have to look at the reality that people vote with their feet, and people are going where? Europe. Means they know where. Okay, I'm not saying it is unfortunate. We, as the Muslim country, what we want to provide to refugees. But for today's, the purpose of today's topic, Occidental refugees, refugee politics, only are better ones. With this, I want to end with pantun. Buah cempedak outside the fence. Take a galah, please make it wrong. Please lah, don't take offense. But I would like to end this with a mic drop.
Thank you. Right then, so we'll go straight on to the third and final speaker of the opposition. The floor is yours now.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everyone, members of the floor. The government side has failed to prove to us how they are better than the Oriental countries despite being given multiple POIs just to give a standard as to how you're doing it better. Saying more classes, better teachers, better syllabus, more surveillance. No facts have been given, no proofs have been given, but just mere sentences. I'll further on elaborate as to how weak and baseless their points are as I further go on to each of their points and I rebut each of them individually. Going on to their first point of well coordination of how they treat refugees, that come to their countries. First and foremost, they fail to prove that all Occidental countries are doing a good job. They just mentioned Canada to prove that Canada is doing a good job. But the burden of proof on them is to prove that all Occidental countries are performing at the same level. On talking about the right to shelter, they mentioned without effect that those in the refugee camps in recent fronts are not refugees. We on the opposition side see them as people with human rights, and asylum seekers are people who are on the path to become proper refugees, who will be deserving of all the rights that we are talking about right now. So why are you undermining their value of life to just say, just because they're not yet refugees, they deserve to live in the refugee camps? You know what happens there? They die from cold weather, and they die after years of waiting for acceptance to become refugees. The government side has failed to prove to us that that does not happen. Hence, their point for acceptance.
Thank you. I would like to object to the standard that you gave us earlier, that you said that we have to prove that all Occidental countries are doing a good job. Certainly the same standard that has to apply to Oriental countries, where you will then have to prove that all the Oriental countries are doing great.
Thank you very much. Which is the reason that we did not want to talk about that. We want everyone to understand that you can talk about all that you're able to perform with your higher GDP per capita, with your higher development progress and status, yet you're not doing a better job than us, who have so much less, limited resources, finite resources, yet you are still able to extend a helping hand despite the exhaustion and the limitation on our side. I'll further give an example on that as I go on further later. Going on to the second point, we were talking about food, water security provided by Canada. Those are basic needs. They are not, you didn't even elaborate on how you provided those basic needs to a human being. On the other hand, and you mentioned about how NGOs and the government work together. This is the exact same picture that goes on with Oriental countries. China actually looks at the pathway of a refugee from the very beginning. When they're applying for refugee status, in the meantime, stay in China with a temporary ID. And during that period, they are given basic rights. The children are allowed for free education, they are given healthcare services, and as well as security. On the other hand, you said that the asylum seekers deserve to stay in the refugee camps, being denied of the basic human rights that all of us should receive.
Firstly, chill, we are Malaysians, we are not representatives of the West. Secondly, once again, put into the context, we're not saying they deserve to be in camps, we're talking about how they have to be in camps in Turkey, in Syria, in Jordan, for example, because those countries do not have the capacity to give more to them. I think you guys are a bit misled by the numbers. Yes, they take in more numbers of refugees, but we're talking about the long term and the security. So please.
Refugee camps, I was referring to Canada and France, who are doing so much better than Turkey and the other Middle East countries, per capita and development-wise. So that point does not stand. Moving on to the third point, third and fourth, then combine them both. Economy and education. You were talking about by having better workforce, by having more insurance and work opportunities to the refugees, that makes Occidental countries better. That is again a sentence without proof, without facts, without numbers. On the other hand, so here I would like to challenge. If you are so much better in providing those, then why don't you accept more when you are able to give more? I'll give numbers now. China accepts 300,000 refugees despite the limitation of resources, yet Canada, you're so proud about, has only accepted 40,000 refugees. And if you're so proud of it, please try to paint a better, ideal picture rather than saying about the ideal future outcomes. Please talk about how you aim to achieve those in the first place, not talk about rainbows, please. And you did not mention, you did not prove how we actually treat our refugees as slaves. That is a very judgmental statement to say, and it's very unfair. As I mentioned about China, how we empower and educate them. As my friend talked about Malaysia, how we provide education and recently the opportunity to employ the refugees. That is something outstanding. And we on the other side are very, very proud to say that you are not doing a lot better than us, I'm afraid. Next week once I'm able to fit. If you are talking about them being as your top priority, wanting to give them a holistic approach, then tell me, in Hungary, why did you not accept the refugee quota to just accept 2,000 refugees in your country when you can accept actually more than 10,000? You refuse. Most of your citizens refuse to accept the refugee quota, hence denying the right to entry for 2,000 refugees who are left to die on the shores. Secondly, you have betrayed the very, very law that you said you are standing by. Australia has betrayed the law, the 1951 Convention law that says you cannot deny acceptance to refugees. Yet that's the very thing you did. You push them away, you enter waters and tell them to find someplace else. With that, I'm proud to say that the government side has failed to prove their point. They're very inconsistent with no proofs, and we on the opposition side are very, very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Right, so now both sides have 2 minutes to think and deliberate before delivering the closing remarks. We'll get the closing remarks from the opposition first. Right, so the 2 minutes are up. With that, I would like to invite the speaker from the opposition to deliver the closing remarks for the opposition.
Bismillah. Ladies and gentlemen, as the opposition side, we would like the motion today to fall because we believe that the Occidental refugee policies are not necessarily better than the Oriental counterpart. And having said this, we have all sort of proof that we have said in our primary work to you. The first one, under the first argument, proof of outstanding contribution by Oriental countries within our capacity and within the difference in nature of countries in the Occidental and Oriental, with different number of GDP and different developing status. China, Malaysia, South Korea, Japan has been doing up to their limit, while they're taking high number of, and in terms of like China, they are not only taking the refugees to the camps, but they are holding permanent resettlement of the refugees into the Chinese community. To talk to you about how there are disparities in execution by Occidental countries' policy in terms of the EU, they are not adopting the policies consistently among all the Occidental countries. I will talk to you how, at the end of the day, Oriental countries have played a bigger and more significant role to help the major player in refugee crisis, the Middle Eastern countries, to help the refugees by giving out aid. Because in terms of geographical area, of course, you can't say refugees are, at the end of the day, refugees are vulnerable people who will seek the nearest protection to help them. And this is why the Middle Eastern going to the EU part because it is nearer in terms of geographical, and we as the Oriental have done so much in terms of aid. China has pledged to give long-term commitment to the UNHCR for 21 million per year. And according to their points all fall because when they say their policies are well coordinated, no, we don't see that. We don't see that. In European countries, only 4 out of 28 are coordinating policies, and in the EU itself, they are coordinating with each other. And in terms of education and employment, their path to seeking refugees are not protected. Like what happened in Australia, Australian refugees, people coming to Australia are not even given the rights to enter the national policies adopted by the Australian. And when they talk about how their policies are beneficial to the whole country on long term, no, we don't see that because what they are doing now, they are coordinated, and counterpart is playing a better solving the refugee crisis, and this should. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to deliver the closing remarks.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I'm going to wrap up and tell you the whole parliament why we from the government team should win today's debate and why the Turkey should be on our side. And it's simply because of this question you can ponder. Okay, so why do refugees take the risk of going across the Mediterranean Sea, going through the hardships and the difficult life to gain meat from the Occidental countries when they can just travel 2,000 kilometers to the countries nearby them? Why is that? That's simply because we can give them sustainable approach. We can give them a better and holistic benefit to the refugees, to the home country, and also we can also benefit the host country as well. And why they cannot win, ladies and gentlemen, is because they keep on talking about Hungary and the United States. We say that Hungary is not representative of the policy, okay? Because it's the government that rejects. And in the US as well, it's a Trump that opposes the government. It's not representative of the policy. So that's why that point is not valid at all and shouldn't be argued any further. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we aim for realistic and sustainable outcomes. So the Oriental counterparts, they receive bigger number, but do you see a good standard of hygiene, healthcare, food, sanitary in the refugee camps? No. In fact, when they are by default have reduced capacity compared to the West, now when they receive bigger number and try to save a lot of people, they're actually reducing the capacity even more. And that's why they are not as good as us, the Occidental countries' policies. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that our points are very holistic and very comprehensive because we start from the very bottom, the very foundation of human needs, which is the food, shelter, clothes. It will give people physiological benefit and security. And ladies and gentlemen, when we give them education, if not in the concentrated camps, that's why you see teenage girls luring into prostitution. You see teenage boys fleeing back to Syria to join the organized, to join the violent organizations and the armed forces. And also we believe in when we provide them opportunities to work, when we provide them skill training, they can have the autonomy to work, and they also have the self-esteem and self-actualization when they acknowledge, when they're being recognized to work and be part of the society, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that today's motion should stand proud and strong because the opposition has not proven to us how their policies can surpass us in the long term holistically, and we have already done our best by proving that this House believes that the Occidental refugee policies are better because we fulfill the human needs of refugees in a holistic and sustainable manner, benefits the host country and the home country in the long term. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to rest my case.
Thank you very much. Right, so we've heard all the remarks from both the government and the opposition side. While the judges deliberate, count the marks, and think to themselves who should win, I'd like to invite Tuan Hatimah to again give his opinion and possibly Ikrom's perspective on this issue. Campur boleh.
We go for temporization. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So,